And that sound means the start of another missile for the masses. This is the Chaplain's Assistance Motor Pod, where I'm your host, Gary.
And I'm Casey.
And this is the podcast where we talk about G.I. Joe comics, the Energon Universe comics, vehicles, playsets, or trailers from the G.I. Joe, a real American hero toy line, and also other military and adventure toy lines as well. And also, on occasion, very rarely, talk about what's going on in our world of G.I. Joe. And Casey, how have you been?
I have been great. Had a great weekend last weekend, and can't wait to do that again.
Yeah, it's been the talk of the internet for at least a week. We were both together at Joefest 2024, and this is really my first time talking about it. I haven't. I've really been stewing on it. I've been thinking about it. All a polite way of saying I've really been after my vacation at Joe Fest, I went back to work and have been exhausted since. But I don't think that's been the case for you.
You know what? I've been so tired since I got back. It's just crazy. Uh, while we were at Joe Fest, I got a message from my favorite toy store, Faraday Toys. I'm just going to plug them real quick because they're amazing. They treat me like family. They picked up a bunch of, I'm just going to say it, Motu Classics. I was looking for them. They picked them up. So I picked them up on Tuesday.
Wow, so your expensive week can get even more expensive.
It was all credits.
Awesome, that's the way to do it.
Yep.
And yeah, we really we both had similar but different experiences at Joe Fest. That's what this episode's about. Telling each other what we missed, what we shared, and bringing it to the listener that may have wanted to go to Joe Fest, was curious about Joe Fest, or just wants to listen to us talk. And let's start with me. My trip really started Monday because I took the whole week off. And on Monday, my son got out of school, and then we flew to Orlando to go to Disney. My wife is a Disney adult. So, in other words, to make the family as a whole happy, as the patriarch in my household, we went to Disney first before I split off and went to Joe Fest. So this way, there was things happening for both of us. But had a good time at the parks. Stayed there until Thursday morning, where I caught a flight on Thursday night to go to Atlanta. Well, actually, sorry, to North Carolina, where I got my connection flight to Augusta.
So, mine started Wednesday because I drove from Indiana to West Virginia and met up with Eric Hillbilly Harper and hung out with him and his wife on Thursday. Had a really nice time there. Or on Wednesday, I'm sorry. Then Thursday, got up early and headed to Joe Fest.
Yeah. So, what time did you get into Augusta on Thursday?
2 p.m.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and they let us into our room 2 hours early, which I was really thankful for.
Yeah, I came in, later that evening. Probably about what time? What time did I meet you over by the pool? It was like what, 7 o'clock, 7:30.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and then we chatted. And who was there? There was Matthew Comstock, Joe Ricondo.
I know. I think Crash was there. Beta Ray Bob. I think he was there.
Yep,
Scuba Pete. He might have still been down there.
I think so.
He's
Yep.
Yeah. He's the one that had the flag in the pool.
That's right. Yeah, and he posted that on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, just getting together. It wasn't as chaotic Thursday night as it was last year. This being my second year. Oh, and I just want to say, if we're forgetting anybody, um, on this podcast that we said hi to, thanks for listening and all that other fun stuff. So if we forget anybody, feel free to send all your complaints and you forgot me email to chaplainjoepod@gmail.com or anywhere on social media at chaplainjoepod. Feel free to try to humiliate me, mea culpa in advance. But I don't want to forget anybody because this really was a great community event, and I really want to stress that. So there was a lot going on. My brain seems to be fried lately, so I just want to put it out there. No disrespect intended, but things may be forgotten.
It was a fast 3 day show. To me, it felt fast because I had such a great time.
Yeah, it was definitely, you don't know what was going to happen next or who you're going to run into next. It really didn't slow down until the panels on Saturday. I'll say a little bit about my Thursday night. After dinner was there's a little bit, a very small lobby swap. I had brought several pieces from my own collection that I was there to try to offset a bunch of costs for the trip. So I ended up, my Thursday gets was number one. I got Destro number one from my pal Casey over there. He picked it up for me, so I was able to enjoy Destro before I fell asleep. That was a very welcome thing, something to talk about next month. This is the end of Yojo June. And so got to enjoy Destro number one. But also the second thing, though, was I traded an 82 straight arms Scarlet. My straight arms had been in a tub for 3 years. And I traded an 82 Scarlet for an Estrella 82 straight arm Scarlet. So that was a really cool get. I got it from a guy who was visiting from South America. He had a whole bunch of original figures that were from his childhood collection. He had decided that he was upgrading his Scarlet and his Snake Eyes. I decided not to get the Snake Eyes because it was basically an 82 Snake Eyes. But I wanted the Estrella Scarlet to add to my very small international collection. Not a rabbit hole. I will go on record in saying I'm not going down that rabbit hole as I keep adding pieces.
Right. So Thursday, I got a couple things. One, I made a deal with my good friend Gary for a mauler. And I've never had a mauler, and it is in amazing shape. I want to thank you again for that.
No problem.
And a good deal on it. But Joe Ricondo hooked me up with some. I won't go in detail. I know it's not a Motu show, but I got some Motu figures I was missing from the Mattel Creations, and you know, gave me a really nice price on them, and I'm very thankful for that too. But that's all the money I spent on Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday was late, and then we'll go on a Friday, Friday morning after breakfast. Uh, we hooked up. It was you, me, Hillbilly, and Matt, all from your show. So it was basically podcast from the pit
Yep.
and me.
Yep.
And we went to our local Comic Cons.
Yeah.
The first place we went to is that place by Walmart. I can never, the Book Exchange,
No, it's like A. I think stuff starts with an A, like
AGX.
a letter, something like that. I know there's an A and an X in there.
Yeah, and it's a comic gaming shop. Uh, I picked up some blank covers there for Scarlet number one and Destro number one because sketches to be revealed later. Did you get anything from there?
I did not. Wait, no, I'm sorry, I did. I got a Cobra Commander alternate cover I didn't have.
Okay. And so from there, where we went to, oh God, the brick building.
No, we went to Top Dog
We went to
next.
Top Dog next. I thought Top Dog was our last stop.
Well, we went to Top Dog and Dead Media, both.
So yeah, so Top Dog. Uh, I know you were looking at some more Motu.
Yep. And I bought them. Got some classics and a book that has all like newspaper strip um, Masters of the Universe. It's been really cool so far reading, but that's all I got from there.
Okay, yep. I ended up getting 4 issues of the Tick, the original printing from the NEC Comics. They had a couple second prints and third prints and fourth prints, but I didn't. I'm a first print guy. I don't care what alternate cover you put on your second print, third print, fourth print, fifth print, sixth print. Greg Engel, that's directed at you. And So I'm a first print guy, so I got some first print Tick comics. Very rare you see a comic book shop with a Tick section in their back issue bins. And then I got 1 issue of America's Elite that I needed to recollect, and looked at some of their Joe pricing. I still say that place because I'm definitely interested on the Joe side. I did look at some of their Star Wars stuff, but really their pricing is like any toy store or whatever. You just got to pay attention to the labels. You don't know when these things have been priced. You don't know how long they've been on the shelf. There's good deals, there's fair deals. There's some things that seem to be not really a good deal at all, at least in my book. I know Hillbilly was eyeing a Slugger, and I told him, I says that was a decent deal. It was missing the cover for the driver's cockpit, but it had the machine gun and it had a 100% complete Thunder with the mail away file card. He passed up on that one.
Yeah,
But I do enjoy going to that store because it's like you never know what you're going to find and you never know what's going to be a great deal.
yeah, it is a really great store. The other one that we went to next, it's hit and miss. Last year was a hit. This
Yeah.
year was a miss for me. I didn't find anything I wanted.
No, Dead Media was. I love the store because it's so quaint. It's so out of the
Yes.
way. It's so very old school, tucked in a corner. It's hard. It's crammed. Every inch is crammed with stuff. He knew it was Joefest weekend. He posted on Facebook like, "Oh, he had a collection and stuff he brought in," and yes, he did. He had a collection there. Some things were, I would say, very fair priced. I was really eyeing that GI Joe F-35. Was it the Thunder Wing? It was like
I
a
think
hundred
so.
a hundred bucks. I was like, "Ooh, I wanted it so bad because I really like ever since Top Gun." And some other things, things I've been following on social media. I really want to get a GI Joe F-22 and a GI Joe F-35, and I love the Sky Striker and all as a XP-14F, but it's just the fifth generation fighters. I want them in GI Joe. What can I say? Uh, and But yeah, I struck out there. I couldn't fit the Thunderwing at home, so there was nothing figure wise I wanted, and there was nothing otherwise in there. It was a really cool place to check out.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's a very nice, like old school, small. I'm going to say small because once there's more than just us in there, it's a little too crowded for me.
Yeah, you get 3 people in there. That's it. Four, and there was what at one point 6 people in there.
Yeah, 6, 7 is, yeah, I was ready to go then.
Yeah, everybody's saying excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, and you're bumping into people as they're checking out comics or figures or whatever. Um, So yeah, no, that was. I still like going. It's still. I still think it's a good
Hmm.
experience going to all 3 places. And then we went to lunch at what was it, Bojangles, a place I've never heard of.
Bojangles, yeah.
And then we took a break until the show.
We had the same idea to go down and get our passes early, and we still had to wait in a long line.
Yeah, that the long line reminded me of JoeCon when I went in 17. Because the line wasn't that long at Joefest last year, and but it was funny. It was like it was a line Friday night to get to get your wristband to get in, and it was like the show opened at 6, and I think they didn't start handing out the bands until like almost 5 o'clock. It was like quarter of
Yeah,
5, and yeah, so it was just funny because we really hadn't been texting at that point. You were hanging out with Hillbilly and Matt, and I had just gone back to my room to get ready for the show, and we just you were 2 people behind me. I'm like, yeah, just we just we just hooked up then, and yeah, and then just really it was just a little BS session, just checking in with the people in front of us, people in back of us, but
and and getting there that early enabled me to get one of the very few shirts that they had for this year. They were sold out quick.
yeah, when I went to get my shirt, they had already sold out of my sides.
Yeah, me and Matt, we both got the last two 3X.
I think the biggest news just before the show hit was Super 7 leaked photos of theirs to Full Force for what would probably I would consider the biggest GI Joe news for that weekend was the Reaction Plus line for the O-rings.
Hmm.
So Full Force was the official uh I guess they were, what do you call it? They had the exclusive an hour, less than an hour before the show, of having the first pictures available of the Reaction Plus prototypes, and that really you know set me a buzz, and I think I heard a little bit in the line about it too.
Oh yeah, the super pumped for all this O-ring news coming up.
So until then, I think really it's just running into the show. At this point, the doors open. My first stop was the Delta 17 booth,
Mine too.
and I got my two Okami Elite Guards, which are awesome.
I ended up with three.
They weren't on blister cards. I was not upset about that because it allows me to open them both up and then put them both back in the clamshell case. And but I got the comic, so I was able to get the first issue of the comic, and I got a patch.
Yep.
Yeah. Where else? What else you got?
Well, first, have you read the comic?
Yes, I did.
I thought it was very good.
I really enjoyed the story there, though it was really cool to finally get the story, the first official, lore of Delta 17 and what's going on with that. So I was very excited to see that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm not going to go into spoilers, but it's really got me ready for issue number two to how it ended.
I'm going to read all of this Delta 17 stuff. My one thing is I really hope that the Delta 17 team get a deal with an actual publisher so I can buy it through my local comic shop so I can
Yeah.
support my local comic shop, BoomTube Comics, and also Delta 17 at the same time. I like that's my favorite way of buying comics
Hmm. Mine too.
and also spreading the word. And then all right, so then my next up was Super 7. I had to talk to Brian Flynn and say thank you and be a fanboy and gush over and get some pictures.
Yeah. All right. So I made a beeline to Delta 17. Matt went to Skeletron, and we made a deal. I would get him exclusive, he would get me exclusive, and we'd swap them. We did that. Then we really didn't. I didn't get around the whole show Friday night, so I just kept stopping and talking to people,
Yes.
and I didn't get around, make it all the way around the floor until late in the day Saturday.
Yeah.
So after that, I met them back at Skeletron, and I was looking at the little setup behind Skeletron and Marauders, that little diorama that they had set up. That was we stayed there for a while looking at that.
Yeah, my big thing was, like, after my second stop, which was, Super 7, I met up with, my friend Doug. He goes by Stratoviper72 on Twitter, X,
Yeah.
and then, my other friend Julian, who unfortunately I left off in my Thursday story. We met up in North Carolina at the terminal. He was wearing a Cold Slither shirt, and I was like, "Hey, nice shirt." And then and then I recognized him from last year Joefest. So it was, I saw him again on Friday night at the show. We just walked around, talked, and shopped. But while we're talking around, my next stop was going to Brian Shearer, who I dropped off my Destra One sketch cover, and then walked around to find Mark Pennington, who last year I had a wonderful conversation with him, and I wanted to get a sketch cover by him because I hadn't managed during the preceding year to make time out of my schedule, which is really my fault, to commission something from him because he is a hell of an artist in his own right, just
Yes.
like Brian Shearer. Brian Shearer has, he's done a lot of work on G.I. Joe. He was the anchor for SL Gallant over like 60 something issues, I think. Very high number. But Mark Pennington has a lot of DC work, as well as also being one of the original G.I. Joe designers. Uh, so he was there with Carson Metaxas with Operation Recall. And so I was able to and I dropped off my book with him for sketch cover as well.
Nice.
So yeah, and then like you said, you walk around and talk to everybody. And then it was like a blink and you miss it for those 2 hours.
Yeah.
And yeah, at that point it was dinner time. Yeah, I'm trying to yeah, dinner Friday. Um went to essentially the bar with my friends Doug and Julian, and we were sitting in this little back room, and then and Sarge was diagonally across from us. And it's like, he's there, but it's just like, yeah, we'll just, you just play it cool, like, let him, you know, I bumped into Sarge multiple times this entire weekend, and without, I'll just say this, every time I saw Sarge off the floor, he was a consummate professional, consummate gentleman, so gracious with every single fan. Uh, it made me, it made me happy that he was there, like, because he was awesome. He was a presence. He was such a positive presence the entire weekend, and you know, he's big in presence. He's big in, it's just his thing. And like I said, I bumped into him like 5 times all weekend. It was just he was just so cool.
Yeah, he's the best. He I talked to him a couple times off the floor last year, maybe once this year, and he's just always so nice. Always takes the time to say hi. And never acts like you're bothering him.
No, crazy. It's crazy because, such an ambassador for just the hobby, everything he's been involved in. He's such a great, like I said, he's a tremendous guy. And yeah, but really, by the time we finished dinner, it was like 10 o'clock, and then it was basically the lobby swap was over, and then for me, it was it was just the the bowl session at the end until, gosh, I don't know, 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Mm,
Joel and Jason from Order of Battle. I think that's when Brian Hooded Cobra Commander came in.
mm.
I got to say some things to him that I've been meaning to say for a very long time. Great guy, and just and just everybody else, just walking around and just like, I think Carson was hanging out. The guys from After Action Report. I mean, everybody was just so friendly. We're all just chatting, and trading
Oh yeah,
stories and experiences.
you're getting to know like Lawrence from A Punk with Toys, Tony Romo from Tony's Figs, of course Ken from Toy Connections and Delta 17, Mega J. They got in. Ken and Mega J got in late Friday. No, late Thursday. I'm sorry. I'm getting my days mixed up because I stayed up late, and I'm usually in bed by 9 p.m. because I get up early, and I'm up until like 1 in the morning with these guys. I'm not young anymore. I can't do that, but it's the best.
It is, and you know what it is? You just don't wanna miss anything
Mm-hmm.
because, everybody is just friendly and just, just talking and just trying to, just, share in, what's going on, and it's just, for me, really this year was more of a community thing. Last year, I felt like a fish I don't wanna say a fish out of water, but I didn't feel entrenched because it was my first year, but this year it was just like, "Hey," it was saying hi to old friends versus like, "Oh, it's finally nice to meet you from the other side of the computer screen."
All right. Yeah.
You're more than just a username.
It's just we spend 3 4 days with people who have the same interests we do, and we don't. I don't know how you feel, but sometimes I can't talk about toys as much as I want to because people at work don't care. Everybody here does care, and we can just have those conversations we can't have every day. It may sound silly, I don't know, but it's a lot of fun to talk to people who have the exact same interests you do.
Yeah, and it's so great. It's also nice too to, have conversations too, like that's, you know, you and I have become very friendly over the past couple of years. And, you know, Joel and Jason, I've talked to a lot and, and everything. But it's just nice to be able like, hey, okay, we've been talking about this. And, you move the conversation further because it's easier to do it in person than to be like, texting with
Yeah,
your thumbs. And when you're doing podcasting, it's kind of necessary for networking. It's when you ask, like, hell yeah, and you try to arrange things or not. Um, I didn't. Real quick, Casey, did you bring any podcasting equipment with you on the trip?
I did not. I was going to, but I was so excited last minute to get out, I just left it.
And my stuff stayed safely tucked away in my room because I brought it with me, and I'm like, if I do it, but nobody really wants to record. It's you're having too much fun hanging out and not working.
Yeah,
I'm pretty good. You wanna go on a Saturday now?
yeah, that's fun.
Alright, so this is gonna be a little bit different because you and I did not spend a lot of time during the day on Saturday. We kinda both did our own things. My first stop Saturday was talking to, Total Toy Books with Total Battle Action Force with Brian Hickey and Patty Lennon.
Hmm.
Those guys are just awesome.
Fantastic.
The entire Irish contingent that came this year was
So, did you already have the book?
I have some of their books, but not all of them. They had Total Action Force with them, which I did not have, so I was really happy to pick it up. And I also they had a Kraken figure. They had a couple
Okay.
Kraken figures left, so I was able to pick one of those up.
Well, don't tell Hillbilly he was looking for one.
Yeah, it's a modern mold. It's not the original one.
Yeah, I don't think he'd care. He just loves the Kraken.
So that was my big thing with them. They were super super nice. I bought the book and then, I had them sign it and then I'm like, "Oh yeah," and they're like, "Oh yeah, don't forget Bob Brecken's here." And, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, he's in this book, right?" I mean, it's Total Action Force, and, you know, he was, like, one of the guests of honor, I would say, and, brought it over to him, and there's this little, like he called it a yearbook photo in the book, so I'm like we found it, and then he signed right by his photo, like, it's in the middle of the book somewhere, and, it was just so cool. He was so nice to talk to and just be like, "Thanks for doing these books." I got his My Pal Toy Story, which is I've told it a million times at the show, I'll just say it again. It's on the top of my to read pile that's not a comic
Yeah.
book.
No, if I could just go back to Friday just 1 second, I'm
Go
sorry.
right ahead. No, no problem.
I am sitting in the bar talking with Matt, and Bob Reckon just sits down and starts talking to us. Amazing man. Thanked him for everything he's done. Got a picture with him. Because I said hi to him when I was walking in there. And when he was done eating, he sat down. We just talked for a few minutes, and it meant the world to me. That he's just that nice where he just sits down and starts talking about toys, and he asks us what we're into and all that. And he said he finds it hard to believe that we still want these toys from so long ago.
It's funny, it's like his involvement with the Robo Skull Mark II. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves before the panels discussion. But yeah, I mean, he was, like I said, I mean, every guest there was like first class all the way. They were so pleasant. I think the whole crowd, the whole vibe this year, it was very busy. The DFW show going on at the same time, I think hurt the attendance a bit. I think it could have been a bigger show, but everybody that was there and everybody was there to have a good time. And it was clear there was like I didn't hear any drama really going on at all. So everybody was
Zero.
zero drama. Everybody was all smiles. Um, I think the most problem anybody ever had really there was not bringing enough cash. It
Yeah,
was, it was seriously, it was, for me, my biggest problem was, how to bring it home. You shipped a couple things for me last year, and I just wasn't going to do it again this year. Not because I don't trust you, but because it gets expensive. It's just an added 60-$70 like it was for last year, that I hadn't planned on, and I have to think. It's things you think about when you don't drive and you fly.
yeah. I told my wife we should fly next year, so maybe I won't buy as much.
She'd probably appreciate that.
Yeah, I think she would, because I came home with a ton of stuff. I didn't even realize how much I got until I was done. I was like, oh my.
Yeah. I think really just I'll just hit my highlights for what I
Okay,
got. And so I got that necromancer figure
me
from
too.
who was doing that grindstone.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. And then yeah, I got that necromancer figure. Yeah, I think you would enjoy it too. It has a distinct Skeletor vibe.
We gotta go like Skeletor.
Yes, in quotes.
Yeah,
So, well, that's why I said it was a Skeletor inspired vibe.
yeah.
But I managed to get a carded airtight version too.
Nice.
That's from the big shoulder era. Just to keep up with my airtight collection. Uh, talked to Dan from Toy Galaxy Secret Galaxy. What a nice fella.
Hmm.
Pixel Dan had a line there, so I didn't get the chance to say hi to
I got a
him.
picture with both of them.
Yep, yep, and you posted that on your social media
Yep.
podcast from the pit. Yeah, and I also want to mention that I hung out with. He goes by the GI Joe Repair Shop on X. Hung out with him and did a bunch of shopping with him on Saturday. Really nice to hook up with him. I did run into Action Toys and Collectibles. Those guys, they were vending. Uh, Last year, I couldn't remember who they were. It's a husband and wife team. They have a little girl. She was all over me last year. They left her at home this year, but they were so nice. Met up with them again this year, and I just wanted to throw them a shout out too. Great people deserve the mention.
Always.
Other than that, I just picked up some figures.
Hmm.
Got a '94 Night Creeper leader.
Oh,
I bought a Dodger for his mic for the Sonic Fighters Dodger. I got a DJ for his antenna, so I could put the antenna on my Arctic Commando DJ. And then I got a Headhunters Stormtrooper and a '94 Star Brigade Cobra Commander for a decent shout. And then yeah, that's my highlights. What about you?
I hit a couple different tables. I got some of the old Palatoy 5 POA figures from a guy.
Yeah, I saw him with all that stuff. Yeah, and he was very reasonably priced too.
He was, yeah. Got a black major for $20 with the weapon. I thought that was a pretty good deal. But he was somebody already cleaned out all his uh, red shadows, so I didn't get any of those. I had to buy one of those off somebody else.
Yeah, and, to back up a little bit to Thursday, I heard when the Irish contingent came in, they brought a whole ton of Action Force stuff into the lobby, and all the collectors swarmed it.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of that stuff was bought by dealers and it was available. Like, Destro's Toy Den had a whole bunch of original Action Force. So they turned around and got stuff that they wanted too. Yeah, so it was just funny, like, you're talking about Action Force, and those guys were literally the guys that specialize in that kind of stuff, like Brian Hickey and Patty Lennon, they were there in full
Yeah,
force. This
yeah,
pun
right.
intended. Yeah, that weekend, yeah.
So I got, I don't know, 5, 6 Action Force, the 5 POA. I really like those. I think they're neat. I think the history on them's amazing. Then I did swing by Destro's Toy Den and got some vintage Motu I was looking for. And I went back to Delta 17, got a couple more troop builders because I love the Thunder Battalion. And then I stopped at Chicken Fried Toys, where I got their show exclusive, the Western Snake Eyes. Did you see that figure?
No, I didn't.
It's really cool. And but that led down a rabbit hole for me. So I got a few more of the. I'm never gonna get the name right. They're Western figures. Dime.
Dime Novel Legends.
There we go. I can never get that. I don't know why, but I got a few of those, and I'm just loving them. It's a 118 scale. I like that. It's a modern build, which is pretty cool. It's not O-ring, which I like better, but you know, 118 scale. That's my sweet spot. So I got a few figures there. I believe, other than a few panels like Audible Interlude and a toy kind of mood and Mega J's. I think those are the only panels I went to that day.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the Saturday is very panel
Yeah,
heavy. I like to go around the show floor mostly in the morning before the panels start in the afternoon. Yeah, the first panel I went to was Brian Hickey's and Patty Lennon's Action Force panel, where they talked about the history, Battle Action Force, and it was very interesting. And then from there, basically, I stayed there for like 3 hours, and then it was the next up was like Operation Recall with Carson, and really talking about where they're taking Operation Recall in the next year. They already have the second year of the product line already planned. They're pulling more ideas from that original submission. And then they also announced that they've started pursuing comics as well for the line. They have been approaching publishers about it. And at the end of the panel, I asked the question, well, comic books are a visual medium. And Carson and his compatriot, whose name I forget, I want to say his name was Joe. I said, you guys come across as writers. I don't know, I mean, it's pretty cool if you guys can draw. And I worded it in a way, comic books are a visual medium. Have you put any thought in who would be illustrating this? And then Carson broke the news that Rod Wiggum has already preemptively agreed to illustrate uh, any forthcoming Operation Recall comic book. So that was a pretty cool thing. I'm a huge Rod Wiggum fan. He's like a Herb Trimpe to me. He's such GI Joe issue 34 Shakedown. It does, issue 31, and then a whole slew afterwards too. Then the other one was at the end of the night was Bob Brecken's. But before Bob Brecken's panel was, I did go back to the floor and I picked up my sketch comics from first Brian Shearer. I pick it up and I nearly fell over laughing. He hit it out of the park. I just gave him two directions when I dropped off Destro number one. It was, I want something with Destro and it had to be fun. I told him, I says, I love your work, but nobody does fun in comics like he does. He has a unique take. I referenced a sketch he did for somebody else where it was a trooper putting on stickers for snake armor. And I said, you did something fun with that. So just do something fun with Destro. Uh, just something cool. Doesn't have to be anything serious. And he did this. I go to pick it up, and I'm laughing my ass off. It was Destro. He's got little kissy marks from lipstick all over his helmet. And there's the Baroness squirting Windex on it, wiping her lipstick off with a rag. And he has these little sound bubbles, squeak, squeak, squeak. And her tongue's the effort tongue, like in Peanuts of scrubbing. And it was absolutely hilarious. And I just shared it as of this recording about an hour ago on my Facebook feed. But the other thing was, I went over to Mark Pennington, and this one I also just shared on Facebook, of Target fighting Scarlet, because Mark Pennington and I had a wonderful conversation about Target last year, because it was like he was very enthusiastic about his design for that figure, and I really have taken a shine to Target. Target is just so different and he's just so cool. Even his version 2 outfit with the gold still works with all the other stuff. So we had a nice conversation. So I said, do something with Scarlet fighting Target. I don't know how to work it, but maybe you could figure something out. He's a great artist. And he knocked it out of the park where, Scarlet is fighting Target in the air, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful sketch that I got from him.
Yeah, you showed me both of those. They were great. Yeah, I'm just gonna say that I believe we probably caught all of the panels, but the ones you didn't go to, I think I went to.
Yeah, yeah, we just didn't want to hang out with each other on Saturday.
That's what it is. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We had enough of each other on Friday. Uh, but yeah, then so Saturday the show closed. I picked up the comics, and then so I'm closing the show out. I have my comics. I'm hanging out at After Action Port with Josh Agbean and Roger Taft, and this guy walks over bringing Chi. He was the colorist for like the final year of GI Joe, and Roger and Josh had interviewed somebody about the end of the GI Joe line, and they had published it. So Chi comes over and he starts talking to them, and I'm just like standing there. I'm like, yeah. And I just said, hey, I'm just gonna stay here and listen. And Chi goes into about how Hasbro pulled the plug, and you know the notice everybody had, and what was going on regarding with the editor Mike Lackey. The He talked a little bit about the special number one from at the very end of the Marvel era. Talked about Hama, and just the general of everything that was going on. The book, how the book was behind, and and like, okay, this is what's going to happen, and then just like Hasbro just pulling the plug out. It was a very great story at the end of the show. I was just like counting my blessings because I don't mean to like drama, but it's just so cool to hear it from somebody that was living the history,
right.
and just to get it there. And I'm hanging out with Josh and Roger, these great guys who wonderful conversations with.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah. And really after that, I think you went to the later panel, like you said, between the two of us. You went to the panel, I went to the lobby swap, and I got rid of the rest of my figures that I brought to the show. And then after that, I went to Bob Brecken's panel,
Yes.
and where he explained, the whole thing again of Palatoy and Action Man and Action Force. And unfortunately, it was in the same room as the lobby swap. So for anybody that's not that wasn't there, so it's this big hall room that could be divided in half. And one half is where you have like the speakers podium and you have the projector and you have everything going on. And it's a large room. I'd
Hmm.
say it's like 60 by 60 feet wide at this section. And, like it's like 30 feet deep, 25 to 30 feet deep. But the thing is, there's tables like where you'd eat at or something. And it's another 60 to 75 feet and another 30 feet, wide. And you have a lobby swap going on. So you got Bob Brecken with a microphone competing against probably another 90 to 100 people.
Easily, yeah.
And unfortunately, it was very hard to hear him. I made sure I grabbed a very close seat, but he was awesome. And everything he did was just, everything he was saying and filled me in. Just, it was awesome to have him there and to fill uh, us fans, history buffs of what Palatoy was doing all those years from, 66 until, gosh, he covered the 5 POA stuff. And it was, a big chunk of history about what's going on and about how Action Man just completely took off in the UK. Whereas G.I. Joe was winding down in the 70s, Action Man was just building steam. And then how Star Wars, from their perspective, became the first globally branded toy line, and how Action Man changed to compete with Star Wars rather than remaining its own thing, which I thought was wild.
So Saturday, I was into the lobby swap for a little bit. I didn't come across any great deals, but it's normally time I'll run into Joel and we'll talk a little bit. Then I head to the bar and just talk to people until 1 in the morning. Had a great time.
Yeah, after Bob Brecken, I went and I had dinner again. I ate dinner at the bar with my friend Doug again, and I'm just finishing up my sandwich. So they had basically closed, and they were only serving like the takeout food from the bar. And I was just finishing up to go and hang out with all you guys. I made sure I said hi to Hans Chow, who has his own horror story for not staying at the Marriott. But so I'm getting up, and like we were talking about, Sergeant Slaughter sat down next to me. He's like, "Oh, is this seat taken?" And I'm getting up. I'm like, "No, it's totally not." And it was just like, it was just one of those. It was the perfect opportunity to get a selfie with Sergeant. I was just like, "Oh, no, 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 don't worry about it. Hey, have a great night." And he was just so nice. And he talked a little bit about the Travelers tournament, golf tournament here in Connecticut was going on, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I golfed at the Pro Am," and I'm like, "Oh okay." I was like, "Yeah, I stick to putt putt," and but yeah, and then yeah, we went up to just chatting for the next 3 hours, 4 hours, in the lobby with everybody. Just such a nice community event to just bull BS about what's going on and everything going on with everybody.
Yeah, it's always fun to try to get a conversation with Jason from Order of Battle because he's just all over the place. He's a he's a busy man.
Exactly. Yeah, he makes introductions. Then he's like, "Oh, let me say hi to this guy," and then he walks away, and you don't see him again for the rest of the night. I didn't even see him on
Oh
Saturday.
yeah,
Yeah, I talked to Joel, and then I talked to you for a little bit to catch up on Saturday because we didn't hang out.
yeah.
Bart Simon,
Hmm.
met up with him. Really good to see him. Talked to Josh Blaylock for a little bit. I didn't. he was there at the after action part, but I didn't really I didn't really talk to him, but talked to him afterwards, and it was yeah, like everybody's just it's just such a cool social event.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I was traveling Saturday, so I mean, I was traveling Sunday morning, so I really didn't do anything on Sunday other than travel. But Casey, what did you do? Did you do anything on Sunday?
Went to the show. Uh, I did have a commission done. A friend of mine made me a whiplash from Masters of the Universe. It is very nice drawing.
I think that was John Earl.
Yes,
Yeah, he had wonderful art out there.
yeah. He did a Last Ronin from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for Matt, and he did him a Pit, the old Image Comics Pit.
Yes.
Yeah, and both those turned out fantastic as well.
Yeah, he's a hell of a pinup artist. I love his work. He had a nullifier. I mean, that I was very keen on buying. I really wanted to buy the piece. Like, you want to talk about like a D level GI Joe character that he made just a wonderful, wonderful drawing for. But again, for me, it was a wonderful size, but I just couldn't transport
Right.
it. I didn't want it to get destroyed.
Yeah, I got a short fuse from him last year, which was fantastic. That's how we first started talking, and I'm probably going to throw him some oddball characters to see if he can do them for me throughout the year, because he does do them and sends them out to you. Going to get him to do a couple Delta 17s. That'd be pretty cool.
He would be a great choice to do like alternate covers or something
Hmm.
if they go that route, or even just. I mean, yeah, he could really do a great Shepherd.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking. Have him do is Shepherd. But Hans Chow, I got a print from him of Death Sparrow, and it's amazing too.
Yeah, I love it when Hans Chow shows up because he always brings like all these little prints he's
Yeah.
done, and he's just like, "Here, yeah, oh yeah." He's like, and if you're a friend of his, he's just like, "Here, take one,
Hmm.
take two." He's like, he's so generous.
Yes.
He's one of the nicest
Oh
guys.
yeah.
Just awesome.
That's the thing. I didn't run into one person I had a bad interaction with this year. Everything was just everybody was just super chill this year. Like you said earlier, no drama at all. Just fun.
Yeah, yeah, and I the one thing that this little show. This is a very little podcast. The one thing was like last year, I brought T-shirts and I handed them out to friends and listeners and stuff, and it was really like surreal for me because this isn't something I don't sell my stuff
Hmm.
on Etsy or Redbubble or any of those other sites. These are my friends that print up my shirt. The link's in the description. Robert Barron's Inc. And it was so weird to see people at the show wearing my shirt, and I didn't ask
Right.
them. I didn't do
Yeah.
anything. It was just like, what the hell?
They're super
And everybody
comfortable.
just said the same thing. They were comfortable.
Yes, they are super comfortable, but they also look good.
It was a huge compliment.
Mhm.
Made me, like I said, it just made me feel good. And to anybody, Hans, Doug, and Bart Simon, thank you. And yeah, and then really, yeah, Sunday I read Delta 17 on my wonderful extended layover in North Carolina.
Weird thing this year is okay. So Sunday show's over. We go out to eat with Matt and his wife at the Olive Garden. We get back, and Hillbilly's ready to leave. And I'm like, okay, he wants to get back home, and I get that. So we left. We weren't supposed to leave until Monday morning, but yeah, we left out Sunday evening, and it probably worked out for the best. I got home a little earlier, got my rental car taken back. But just, I don't know, I already miss it. Ready to go back. Did you see that next year is, I think it's a day longer?
No, I haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah, it's from June 20th to the 23rd.
Oh, that's crazy. So that's what, a Thursday through Sunday?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm guessing the Thursday will be like the 2 hour preview night, and it would turn
Oh, that
Friday into a normal day.
that's absolutely crazy. But other than the spending thing, but the more
Yeah,
panels and maybe less competition in that
yeah.
room will really benefit.
And I heard that they are going to fix the problem of the lobby swap versus panels. They said it won't be a thing next year.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, so obviously what we talked about or what I talked about earlier with the Bob Reckon panel probably got back to Ed.
Well, also
That's
before Bob's, it was the toy kind of mood, and they couldn't use. I don't think they can use any of their audio that they were going to use for their show because of the lobby swap.
so I was part of that problem. Uh,
You're not a loud person.
no, no, I generally am quiet for the most
Yeah,
part.
me too.
Uh, so, so two quiet people do a podcast. But but yeah, so that's but the other thing too was, did you see they've already announced Ron Rudat and Larry Hama for next year as
Yes.
well?
Yeah. They said legends are back. I guess they're coming with Carson probably for the Operation Recall.
Yes, I think that was the main thing, but it wouldn't surprise me because like Bob Brecken was kind of spread over Total Toy Books and Skeletron. It wouldn't surprise me if those guys are spread out too
Yeah.
with their sponsors. Because also talking to Mark Pennington, uh, he likes coming to Joe
Hmm.
Fest. So I will definitely not speak for this guy, but I would assume because he wanted to come to Joe Fest this year, yeah, I would think that he would be there again next year.
I hope so because he is super nice as well.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention the Doug Hart
Mm,
panel. I was there for the Doug Hart panel.
nice.
Uh, he was great guy. Um, and then he had oh god, is it Michael Charles Hill, the guy who wrote Cold Slither?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yep, he was there too. He was a really nice guy. I mean, yeah, all the guests were awesome. I mean, there's really nothing bad to say about Joe Fest, other than the fact that for 3 days, besides catching up with your friends, it's hard to fit in everybody that you want to talk to and say hi to. If you want to talk to somebody more than like 15, 20 minutes, it's hard because you're going to miss somebody. You're going to wish you managed your time better. It's a great event. I'm really happy they're stretching out the timeline. So it's just going to be, you know, I'm hoping I can afford to do it again next year because that's one thing I prioritized it this year for a couple reasons, and the flip side is I got bills to pay,
Hmm.
and an extra day is an extra hotel
Yeah.
room, split it with somebody, do something else, do something different to stretch the dollars.
Yep. It's gonna be a blast. I know Hillbilly was talking about before we got down there. He'd do it this year, but probably wouldn't go back next year. Now it's, man, I really want to go back next year. I'm like, yeah, it's all it takes is one trip down there, and you want to go back. It's so much fun. Me and Matt, this was our fourth year in a row, and you know, I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure it's five.
Yeah, absolutely, I get it. And I also want to say Matt's wife was awesome too.
Yes, yes.
regular listeners might have taken notice that Casey's been on a lot of the recent Missiles for the Masses, the Chaplain Sisters Motorpod. So I should have said this first thing in the episode, but Casey is the new co-host for Chaplain Sisters Motorpod. Casey's been instrumental in the last several episodes being recorded and helping out and just, feedback and everything. So I want to let everybody know that you're going to be hearing a lot more of Casey in the future. He's with me for the long haul. And just want to say, Casey, thanks again for doing all of these with me. I'm really happy to say it out loud and put it out there for everyone.
No, like I said, I always have a great time when we record, and I always said, anytime you ever want me, all you gotta do is say, "Hey, come on, I'll be there."
So now I don't need to
Nope,
ask.
we're good to go.
And with that, that concludes this Missile for the Masses. I've been your host, Gary.
And I'm Casey.
And for more Chaplain Assistance Motorpod, you can find us on social media at Chaplain Joe Pod, Twitter, X, Facebook, and Instagram. And also, you can email at chaplainjoepod@gmail.com. I take care of all of those accounts, but if you're looking to get a hold of KZ to talk to him about G.I. Joe, other military adventure toy lines, or even Mo2,
Happy to talk to you. You can check me out on YouTube or the podcast, any of your podcatchers, Podcast from the Pit. Also on Twitter and X. I think it's at Pit Podcast. I think it comes up as that. But you can search it by Podcast from the Pit. And we have a Facebook group. So, yeah, jump in conversations. It's always a good time.
And as always, the Chaplain Sisters Motorpod is the strange, but not as strange, the nerdy little brother of The Pint, a pop culture podcast. And with all of that said and done, one final missile for the masses: be decent to each other.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good night.